Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the One Fear Per Year podcast. I have such a special, amazing, and remarkable human being with me today, Scott Bloom. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about fear and talk about walking through it.
Oh, I love it. I'm all for walking through fear. I'm actually for not letting the point where fear pops into your head so you don't actually have to walk through it. I think it was Churchill, coincidentally, who said something like, when you're going through fear, just keep on walking, which is a great advice. I'm more working on a little bit more of just controlling my thoughts so I don't get to that place of first anxiety, which then goes to full blown fear.
Ooh, that is so good. So walk us through, because I know as we are born as little tiny babies without knowledge of much of anything and very dependent, and we make our way through life. What was your childhood, teenage years like as far as fear was concerned? Was it a big obstacle for you? Did you feel fearful of a lot of things, or how was that for you?
Yeah, I wasn't, but that was also because, I grew up a divorced family and, had parents that were not always reliable. So I learned to sort of take care of myself and also, approach things where I have a little bit of a filter where I don't always feel as much stuff. So I wasn't feeling as much stuff in high school and stuff like that. So I don't think I was experiencing fear. And then also, I think I chose to choose things that I knew I'd do well at. I was avoiding fear that way. Wasn't always challenging myself. If things got too hard, I remember being on the baseball team. No, actually, it was a football team. And I played most of freshman year. I wasn't afraid. I was probably the size I am now freshman year. So I was bigger in freshman year. Now I'd get killed, out there. But I remember when things got a little bit too hard or too difficult, instead of pushing through it, which you would want to do with fear, I think I would just back off of it. I wouldn't try it. So I was in theater when I was in high school, and I don't remember. I probably had the same jitters and nerves and stuff that go through people when they perform before they get on stage, but I don't think I was ever like terrified. Everyone talks about when being on stage and public speaking being really scary. Uh, I didn't have it then. I didn't really have it that much when I started doing stand up, which can be very, very, terrifying. I don't know. I always felt kind of comfortable. Now, that's not always the case. As I moved on in my career, then like a normal person, because I had therapy and I started getting in touch with things, I started to feel some anxiety and some fear about things.
Ooh, that's interesting. So you have this coping mechanism, maybe protecting your heart, just that self-protection thing. And as you started working through maybe some of those childhood wounds and emotional wounds, then things surfaced. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, I think I was just a little bit more open to things. Yeah, there was definitely protection going on, and I had that, a lot, in my early adult years and stuff like that. And it's a process. So as I got opened up, you you created this protection to keep out the bad things, and now that you're a little bit more open, you're a little more receptive, and you start experiencing things like normal people. Like, we always joked in the family, I was like the robot, because I, wasn't always being affected by things. But, yeah, as I got older and got a little bit more self-realization, a little bit more evolved as a person, I started to feel, anxiety and some fear like, other people did.
What is the first thing that you remember specifically just feeling a lot of fear about? Did it have to do with maybe relationships, talking? A lot of times, having honest conversations or speaking our truth can be a really hard thing. Is there anything that pops into your mind as like the first thing where you're really like, this is terrifying to me?
Yes, yes, I do, and it's not that long ago. It was probably, let's see, we're in March, probably around exactly 5 years ago was when we hit the pandemic. That's the first time I felt, absolute, fear. Um, when, uh, when we shut down and obviously a lot of our gigs started to go away, it was when I had to get preparing for my first virtual event where I was gonna host. So, production company that I worked with a lot. It's May, the gig's in May. It's an international event for Pfizer. It's gonna, broadcast throughout the world. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a studio now, but at that point, and we all went through that. I got a laptop. Um, I couldn't get a camera because, everything was, I had to get one on the black market because they were all sort of sold out. I wanted a better camera. I found a little teleprompter mount that goes on your laptop because I had to read, approved copy and stuff. So I had to learn how to do that. And I had insomnia for a month. I didn't realize how fearful I was. And it was, and I haven't really talked about this much, but it was after the event that I just totally crashed. And I had unbelievable fear. I listened to your story on YouTube of your TEDx talk, and I was kind of in that fetal position, just devastated. It wasn't the loss of work, it was the fear of having to do something that and the first one I did, that one for Pfizer, that went fine, but there was so much anxiety leading up to it, and so then afterwards, I just crashed, and the fear was I made my living as a comedic, host, a comedic speaker. I had an audience. How was I gonna do this format, which is so much more intimate, without an audience, without all my crutches, all my stage tricks and everything like that? And that took me out. That was unbelievable. It was my first time I think I've ever felt fear, and I went through some anxiety and depression. It was a 3-month process that I sort of took myself out, at a certain point in the very beginning part of the pandemic so that I can just regroup the anxiety. And then the other compounding anxiety was, oh, what if I never work again? How long is this virtual thing going to go on? What if I don't understand it? What if I don't perform? And so now your head starts spinning and, oh, I'm going to lose the house. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose that. And it wasn't until months later and needed some medication during that period of time. I was able to get out of it and do my first gig after that, another virtual one, and I had come to the point where, okay, I'm just gonna learn, I'm gonna do it, and that's what happened.
So, besides medication, were there any other things that were helpful to you in that period of time? Because my heart is really to provide people that are on the floor in the fetal position with some encouragement and tools and anything that they could kind of cling to know that they're not going to be stuck there forever and things that they can do. So, was there any other thing that you did that was helpful?
Well, I mean, I had started to try to get into a rhythm, a pattern. I realized I put work aside, so now it's just me and trying to focus on me. Uh, Exercise, I was, walking every day. I was swimming. I have a pool. I was doing laps every day. Um, at night, I always did yoga, so getting into some sort of routine. But when it becomes sort of a chemical imbalance, which I think this rush, it was, I had a sort of situational anxiety and depression. You almost have to go through it. And what I've heard a lot of people say is that part of going through it is not trying to sort of fight, is it's in some ways accepting that it's going on instead of not saying, hey, this is not happening. And I guess it's time, like, I needed that time to be on my own and to get comfortable and, meditation, and breathing and stuff like that, that helped a lot. But it was really getting, a lot of times when we're alone and we're anxious, we're all in our heads, so getting the opportunity to walk or getting the opportunity to do some sort of exercise gets a lot of that, kinetic energy that's inside of you out. And so that helped a lot, and then, just trying to get a little bit of control of my thoughts. In the beginning, you can't. So when you're in that place of high anxiety, nothing makes sense, and people wanna help you, and they're gonna go, "Oh, you're great, you're gonna do it." At that point, you you override all those thoughts. You are the one who knows best, and you know, oh, they don't know. So you get through and go through, like in my case, probably some imposter syndrome and feeling like that I can't do it. And when I got a little bit of stability, which I think the medication did help for me on that, I was able to see a little more clearly, and I was willing to take that risk on that first gig that was offered to me and go, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it well.
It sounds like you're talking about that survival mode where you're just like day to day, I'm in survival mode. And then once you gain a little more of that stability, then you can really start to address what I love to call the monkey mind.
Mm.
Just the, I don't know why, it's such a visual image for me of this monkey swinging from branch to branch, and going from this thought to that thought to that thought. And yeah, just this revolving loop and of negativity, maybe. Let's talk a little bit about that because I think negative self talk and the chatter of our brain impacts our entire lives, honestly, and how we show up in the world. Besides, I know you said yoga and meditation, which I love as well and have really helped me. Is there anything else that you can think of or that you've done that helps with that monkey mind chatter?
Well, getting aware of your thoughts is part of, for me, that's what meditation is about, is to be aware, you can start spiraling, from one thought could lead to another, as you said, in monkey mind. But if you can, after that second leap to that second branch, you're going, oh, I'm doing it, you can try to short circuit it. So I try to do that. I've read a lot on these subjects, so that has helped, tremendously. I'm rereading, uh, what is it called? Um, oh, I'm just blanking. It'll come to me. I also just read another book called um, "Don't Believe Everything." Don't believe everything you think, and it's by a guy named Joseph Wynn, and uh, I believe that's the title. And, what it allowed me to do is to realize there's a difference between a thought and thinking. A thought is what comes from a universal place, whatever your belief system is on that. It's your intuition, and we rarely trust that because we haven't been conditioned to trust that. We've been, I think, trained, a lot of us, to we should be able to, figure it out, and so you start thinking about it, and that doesn't ever, always help. So you start getting into loops that way. So I'm trying to stay more connected to just inspirational thoughts as opposed to thinking about that thought. He does a great exercise, a thought experiment there where he asks you to think about something you want to do. And as you start thinking about that, I want to do, I want to accomplish this. And then he says, now think about how you're going to do that. And it's that thinking, that's where you start going into self-critical thought and all the problems in it, and it totally shifts your mood set. So it's trying to keep out of the thinking realm and stay just, it's really all about staying present, which every book and every teaching is trying to, tell you to do.
And I would think that's where fear comes in, right? Is in that thinking space where that, like you were saying, the what ifs, and all of a sudden we catastrophize and it's like the worst thing ever is going to happen. That's the part that you're referring to.
Yeah, it's staying present, and, a lot of people say being detached from outcome. It's more than that. It's not focusing on the outcome. Because in some belief systems, or my belief system, whatever's gonna happen, I'm okay with. I think it's gonna be perfect. Now, obviously, we're doing something, we wanna succeed, we wanna do our best, but I try now, and even, when I first do it, so I was hosting a lot for years, and then I moved in the keynote space. In the very beginning of the keynote, when I started doing keynotes, that was a whole different thing, and I had to really control my thoughts on that because, I went from doing, little 5, 10 minute bits to now I have to keep someone's attention for an hour. I have a script that I learned. I have to be able to memorize that script. There's a lot of comedy in my keynote, so I could totally go into a start having my mind spin about, well, what if they don't like me in the first 5 minutes, or they don't get the comedy, and I got to be on for another 55 minutes. So when I first started doing just keynotes, and this was after performing for 20 years, I still, had that sort of feeling like that performer's nightmare, like, what if I get on stage and I totally blank? Or what if once again, they're not laughing? So, you have to sort of push through that. I had a lot of anxiety in the beginning when I was doing that kind of thing, which was new also to me. Um, but I realized that if you focus on what you have to do and not think about the outcome, then there's nothing to project into the future or all those fears. There's never anything happening in the present. Everything everything is that illusion that's created in your mind of what if, and it's never what if I get a standing ovation. What if they're like, we need you to come back year after year. It's always what if they don't like the keynote. Yeah. What if, yeah, all that stuff.
That's interesting you say that because I just read up on this negativity bias and how our brains are actually wired for negativity because it keeps us safe. It's like, oh, that's danger, or whatever. It's trying to protect us, but we need to be able to override that in given situations and talk ourselves off that ledge. So I ask everybody this question, no wrong answer, but what, in your opinion, is the opposite, the exact opposite of fear? Just one word that's as close to the opposite of fear that you think exists.
Well, I would say love. And, you could have the intellectual version, which would be truth. So, originally, when I was doing some studying like 25 years ago, I kept on going, the opposite of fear was truth. And I didn't see it as a linear line, truth being over here and fear being over here. I eventually realized, oh, it's a circle because let's say at 12 o'clock at the top of that circle, it's either 12 a.m. or 12 midnight. It's either truth or fear. You don't have to move anywhere. You don't have to move anywhere linearly to make that transition. So to me, it's if you can come from a place of love, which is more, connected to your own source, as opposed to being in that place where you're in fear, which is just all in your ego and in your mind, because that's all those bad, stinking thinking thoughts.
That's so good. Now, because this is one fear per year, is there anything in this next year that you want to walk through, that you wanna do, whether or not you feel fear around it? Because I know you're at the point of just catching it so immediately and being right on with that. Or is there anything that you've done recently where you have walked through a fear?
Well, I thought you might ask this question, so I was thinking about different things, and yes, you're right that I'm trying to really mitigate my own anxiety, my own fear, my own thinking. So I kind of feel like I could go through something, but if I had to choose something, I've stayed out of relationships for a while now, and I'm thinking about, oh, I might go back into having a relationship. I love being alone. I did a podcast years ago where I think I forgot. I think she took the title of whatever I said, but it was something about it's so great to be single. I really enjoy being on my own. I'm divorced. I've been divorced a long time. I've had relationships after that, but for a little while now, I've been on my own. I've loved it. I don't know if I must have some fear about getting back into a relationship because I'm not ready to jump into one. So I would say that maybe over the next year, I might sort of explore that. And, I realize any of my fear from that, like a lot of things, go back to history. Oh, I've had this bad experience or I had that bad experience. So I'm fearful that that bad experience might replicate in this next relationship. So I'm going to go through with a little bit more of an open mind, do things differently, choose wisely. I think that's an important thing. I- you know, I have two great kids, but I didn't maybe choose wisely that first time. She's gonna listen to this and go, "See, that's what you're always doing that. You're always throwing me under the bus." Um, but I will make better decisions. I will be a little bit more open to it. And going back to that question you ask, I think I'm going to go through it from a place of love as opposed to a place of fear. I think I have a better chance of having a better outcome.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that because, first of all, relationships are such an opportunity for growth. Because, yeah, when we're on our own, it feels really good and like we're doing our thing, and, when we wanna just be alone, we're alone. We don't have to deal with certain things, and then in a relationship, it's that constant, like, you have to deal with it, and we have to figure this out and talk about it and process all those emotions and possible wounds. So I think that's a huge one, Scott, honestly, for a lot of people, so thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for being an amazing guest. You are a brilliant comedian and a brilliant keynote speaker. I've seen some of your bits and your talks, and just what you're able to do to bring laughter to people and also impart knowledge and wisdom is really remarkable and amazing. So thank you for coming on and giving us your wisdom and knowledge here.
I appreciate being on the podcast, and I appreciate you. So thank you very much.